Hi, and welcome back to Making All the Plans. I'm Connie, and if we haven't met before, I'm a busy mom of 2 active kids, and both my husband and I have full-time careers. My goal is to share with you how I stay on top of all life throws at me in one planner so that you might be able to do the same. But in this series, we have been doing items instead of just writing them over and over again on your to-do list. Join me in this next episode of Stop Rewriting Your To-Do List, and let's get things done together. So pick something on your to-do list that you have been putting off or that is very important to do. This is not what I had been planning on doing today. I feel like sinks are the theme of my month. I need to go and replace the kids' bathroom sink. The lever broke on it, so I am ready to replace that. But it is definitely not what I had planned on getting knocked out today. But I have about an hour and a half before dinner, and my husband is cooking tonight. So I am going to pop into their bathroom and try to get this project knocked out.
So as you can see, the handle has completely broken off. And after I went out and bought a new faucet and everything, I learned that Moen has a lifetime guarantee, so I probably could have just gotten a replacement, but I really wanted to just get this taken care of. And as I was working, I have realized that I need to spend some more time in the kids' bathroom. The first thing I'm going to do is tighten up this door because it gets loosened by itself all the time. And it's probably because the kids get in here multiple times a day to get what they need, although I also don't know how they can find anything that they need. But I'm assuming that just the opening and closing of it multiple times every day is what loosens it up. But I have gone to the extreme of filling the holes, re-drilling them, and hooking the door back up, and it still doesn't seem to be working great. So for now, I just retighten it when it needs tightened. Unfortunately, in order to get to the sink parts and get everything disconnected, I do have to completely empty out underneath the sink so that I can get to everything. And it did need cleaned out, so it's probably a good thing, but it makes this project a lot longer than it needs to be. I did bring up with me a bucket, a towel, and a few different options for wrenches so that I could get things untightened if they are too tight for me to loosen by hand. But if you are looking for a tutorial, I would look elsewhere on YouTube. This is definitely not a tutorial. This is just trying to get everyone motivated to get some of those tasks that you're putting off or that are immediate in my case, but to get those things done instead of rewriting them on your to-do list. I did go ahead and turn off the water. Now I'm going to loosen the trap and get that all unhooked. I did end up buying a whole new faucet kit, so that includes the drain as well. So I'm going to have to remove the drain and remove the piece that broke and the entire faucet fixture. And there's always just enough time in between jobs like this where I can't exactly remember what step to take next, but I just keep working my way through disconnecting and unscrewing things. I know that I can get it all back together because I have done way too many sink repairs, but it does just take me a little bit of trial and error to figure out how to get things loosened up. I also was trying to loosen this drain part and it just kept spinning, so I do end up having to stick something in the top in order to hold it in place so that I can unscrew that bolt underneath the sink. And for those of you who like ASMR, this video will not have that because I realize that I breathe really hard or I hold my breath and then breathe real deep, and it was annoying me, so I had to cut all of that out. And when I'm doing some work, I will put some lo-fi music in the background instead. So this will be the first time that I do a complete fixture replacement in a bathroom. I do consider myself fairly handy, but I really didn't think that this was very difficult. It really was a matter of thinking as I was working, and there are a ton of videos on YouTube that can help you through this process if you're nervous, but I definitely thought that this was one of the simpler home repairs that I have done. But don't let this fool you. It does not mean that I didn't have to make multiple trips to the hardware store during this process, and I will point out those times where I have to do that. Once I get this completely unscrewed, I am able to wiggle the drain and push it up. It is a snug fit, but I am able to work it out, and then I will come back and clean this all up. Just make sure your bucket is underneath when you do that. I should have also brought up some gloves, but we were out of plastic gloves at this point in time, and I didn't think about gardening gloves or anything like that. So I do wish that I had gloves here because this is pretty gross, but I am able to get this cleaned up. I do use a combination of Dawn and vinegar in order to get all of this gunk and putty cleaned off before I go to insert the new drain fixture. The next things that I'm going to do are disconnect the water and also take off this bottom part of the plunger mechanism for the drain. These were not the easiest to get disconnected, but the next time I am under any of the sinks, these copper connections will be getting replaced. They just do not have any give to them whatsoever, and I'm not really sure why copper was used, but I'm also not a plumber, so I am just trying to be a bit of a fix-it woman and get some things cleaned up and fixed up around the house. This whole process probably took me about 2 active hours. I did make 3 trips to the hardware store, but none of these steps are difficult. They just take time to work through. And in a way, I want to go through and replace all of the fixtures in our house now. I had no idea how the fixture was actually connected to the sink. I thought there was some sort of adhesive or at least some sort of caulk that it was around that sink fixture, but there isn't. It just sits on a plastic piece and then it gets screwed together so that it makes a seal. Now that I know that, I really want to go through and replace the other fixtures because I did end up going from this shiny fixture to a matte fixture, and I do like it better, and I have been cleaning it for a couple of weeks now, and I find that there are less water spots on it than on that shiny silver. But going forward, I will go with the matte finish over the shiny finish. All of the door handles in our house are also that matte finish, so I feel like it goes better as well. And before I add the new fixture pieces, I did want to give everything a good clean and try to get off as much residue as possible. I am just using the Dawn and vinegar mixture again, and I do have my bucket down below to catch anything that drips through. Now that I have it cleaned off, I do feel like I'm ready to start installing the faucet. I am just going to dry fit everything first before I start connecting all the pieces and parts. I am also going to lay the directions in the sink so I have a place to put all of the little pieces. Because this is such a small bathroom, I don't have a lot of extra counter space, and I didn't want to drop anything down the drain. So after I review the directions, I will lay the direction sheet over the sink drain so that I have a place to put all the pieces and parts. So now that I have the dry fit, I'm going to go through and put all the connector pieces on. This part is all new to me. I have not replaced a faucet fixture before, so I do want to make sure that I follow the directions. Once I get the faucet fitted back into the holes, I do go back underneath to put the bolts on the bottom and tighten everything up. Then I will reconnect the two water connections. This is not the most comfortable job. It was rough on my back to lay under the sink like this, and your arms do get tired from holding them up in the air while you are trying to reconnect everything. However, I think when I looked, it was going to be about $350 for a plumber to come out and do this job. It did take a while and it did take a few trips to the hardware store, but I still feel like it was worth it to avoid paying that price. And here is the perfect example of why I hate those copper pipes. I did end up time-lapsing this because it took me about 4 tries to get the copper pipe lined up just right with the new faucet piece. So, like I mentioned, I will be replacing these copper connections the next time I am under the sink. Now we are on to the drain piece, and other than picking up the faucet the first time, this would be my second trip to the hardware store, and I don't have plumber's putty on hand, so I did have to run and get a container. Unfortunately, there wasn't a smaller container than the one that I purchased. So this is the same consistency as Play-Doh, and I'm just rolling it out into a snake. It does take me a couple tries to get the right width of the snake. You really don't need much of the putty to go around the drain. But the good news is any extra you can just wipe off with your finger once you get the drain inserted and connected underneath. Now it's time to get back underneath the sink and finish hooking up all of the drain pipes. And then once we get that done, we will give everything a test. Now comes the testing part. I feel like everything is hooked up and it's all tight. I did go ahead and put a paper towel underneath the sink so that I can catch any water and be able to tell pretty easily whether or not it's dripping. There is a wet spot on there right now, but I did tighten things up just a little bit more after that drop appeared. I will take this opportunity to wipe down the inside of the cabinet. And then, since I'm not seeing any droplets from the sink and the faucet being off, I will go ahead and turn the water back on and see if that extra pressure causes anything to drip. And unfortunately, it does drip again, so I check all the connections and try to tighten everything up a little bit more before I put a new paper towel down to see if I have fixed the issue. It is that copper connection that is causing all of the issues, but I'm hoping that I have it tightened up enough. While I am waiting to see if it drips again, I will start loading some things into the under the sink area. And I do have a trash bag outside of the bathroom, just outside the door to my right. So hopefully everything doesn't have to go back in here. It was a bit of a mess, so I'm hoping to clean everything up and wipe everything down as I put it back into the under the sink area. I will also grab a few things from the medicine cabinet. We have a box for Band-Aids in the medicine cabinet that I will pull down so that I can go ahead and refill that box from the extra boxes under the sink, and maybe I'll be able to free up some of that space and storage. Thankfully, now that the kids are older, we don't go through quite as many bandages as we did when they were younger. I do have a first aid kit and I will go through and check expiration dates on everything. Most of these things are expired. I think that we bought these when my son was 5. I think I bought 3 kits, one for each car and then one for under the sink so that I could replace as necessary, but now most of these things are expired and Band-Aids don't really need to live in this box anymore. In addition to this box, I also have a plastic shoe box that I keep underneath the sink that has a lot of other bigger types of first aid items like gauze and slings and those things that we have needed throughout the years of both kids being athletic and involved in sports. At this point, I am hoping that the sink is good and that once I get everything loaded back in, I can just be done for the day. At this point, I am losing steam quickly. So here is that shoebox that I was talking about. I will also go through everything in here and see what can go, what I can put in here, etc. As I do clean out underneath the sink, I do tend to move things around until they're fitting correctly and the grouping makes sense. So the next time I get under the sink to look for something, I know where I need to look. So I think I'm happy with all of the bigger items being in the shoebox, but then I still have a bunch of just extra band-aids. And so I thought I would put them in this red first aid box until I remember that I really do need to refill the band-aid box that is up in the medicine cabinet. You know how they sell those boxes that are meant to keep different size batteries? I really wish that they made one of those for Band-Aids. And even if Band-Aid brand made them and then it kind of had a slot for each of the different sizes, and then when you ran out of that size, you could just buy more. I really wish there was something like that for Band-Aids. But many moons ago, I had bought a box of various size bandages. This is probably when my kids were younger, and I have just been reusing that to hold all of the different size bandages. There are different boxes within the box so that I can keep things separated. And that box is just the right width for the medicine cabinet, so that is nice. However, it would be really nice if there was just a box with all the different sizes and it was easy to see what you needed and it would be easy to keep it organized as well. So the shoebox ends up being for gauze and the tape, the athletic tape, and the rolls of gauze. All of that bigger stuff will go in the shoebox. I do end up moving things like the popping ice pack over to that red case. Anything that we really don't go to very often, that will go in the red first aid box. All of the Band-Aids that I have do end up fitting in the box of Band-Aids and that larger Band-Aid box. So I'm happy about being able to condense quite a bit, but it is amazing how much space boxes take up. So just taking things out of their packaging and putting them in one box together just saved a ton of room underneath the sink. But once I get this done, I will not be putting anything else in the sink just as of yet. You may not be able to see it, but the paper towel in the back is wet again. There was a drop, and I just wanted to finish up this first aid section before I hopped back to the sink. It is that bottom copper pipe that is causing the issues. So I'm deciding that I need to replace that copper pipe. I kind of think through things as I'm doing other things, or if I get stuck on something, I jump to something else. That's just how I tend to operate. But I will go ahead and finish up this first aid area. Then I will have dinner with my family, and then I will run to the hardware store. And unfortunately, I think it's like 5:02 when I realize that I need to go get another part. And our local hardware store closes at 5 o'clock. So I did have to drive into town to get the other part that I needed in order to get the sink from stopping to drip. So I think I mentioned that this probably took about 2 hours of hands-on time. I am not counting the time that it took me to run to the hardware store in between, or the time that I took to stop and have dinner with my family. So I did go ahead and get two of these stainless steel connections, but I only end up replacing the bottom copper pipe because, as I mentioned, I was completely out of steam at this point. I think I started this project at like 1 or 2 o'clock, and it's now going on 6 or 7 at this point. So I just wanted to get this done and be done for the night. However, the next time that I do a sync project, I will make sure that I have putty on hand and that I have these new connections on hand so that I can just swap them out while I'm under there and I don't have to worry about the leaking because the copper pipes are not fitting together properly. So the new water connection was installed. I did turn the water back on. It has not been leaking. I ran the faucet for a little bit. It is still not leaking. I am going to go ahead and leave that paper towel there for now, but I'm going to continue to load everything back into the under the sink area. I do apologize for the horrible camera angle, but this is a small bathroom and it is hard to angle the camera in a way where you can actually see what all I'm doing. But I am trying to wipe things down as I put them back. This drawer set, there is a top drawer, that's for my daughter, the middle drawer, that's for my son, and then the bottom drawer is a combination of just extra items or items that both kids use. However, it is quite clear that I have not wiped these drawers down in quite some time. I also have no idea why my son needs 5 toothbrushes and an electric toothbrush. So I'll have to ask him if we can get rid of some of those toothbrushes. I would like to get one more container for each of the kids' drawers that can hold the toothbrush and the toothpaste. And then that way it's kind of sectioned off from everything else in that drawer. But unless it is obvious trash, I tend to not throw my kids' stuff away or get rid of it without them looking at it and approving or saying they want to keep it first. So this basket on the left is all of my daughter's beauty supplies and whatever she uses in the bathroom, and then just a few things that my son uses that I don't want sitting out on the counter, but also trying to make it not only easy for them to grab their items, but easy for them to find them and put them back. So to recap, I did put the easy to access items for my daughter in that basket, and then my son has just a few items that I'd like for him to get to easily. And then the top drawer is my daughter's, the middle drawer is my son's, and the bottom drawer is for communal items. That middle section is for things like aloe, peroxide, calamine lotion, and then this top section is just other things that we need often: extra toilet paper, shower caps, and different towels. And then we have some spray, some soap, some other medicine, and then down below is all of the medical things and the ice bags. I will also drop in a couple of pictures of the cleaned out medicine cabinet and the completed sink.
Okay, so I am beat. It is 9:15. I started changing out the sink faucet around 3 o'clock. I did take a break for dinner, and I also took 2 trips to the hardware store. One for some plumber's putty and one for a new water, I don't even know what they're called. It's not a pipe, it's a hose. Thank you. Hose. So I made 2 trips to the hardware store, one for plumber's putty and one for a new hose because I could not get the seal on the old one to work. I thought about picking up the hoses when I was there the first time, and I should have, but I was trying to save money. Now, was it worth an extra trip to the hardware store to save $12? Probably not. So I ended up changing one of the hoses out and I left one because it was fine. I will go back and double check in the morning to make sure that nothing is slow leaking. I put a paper towel in the back of the sink just so that I would be able to tell easier if there was a small leak. I am kind of bummed that it threw off all of my other plans for the day. I didn't get any other videos recorded or edited, and I know that tomorrow will be a little busy as well, but unfortunately that is just how home projects go. I will say that I spent less than $100 to do this repair on my own, and I know that it would have cost $400 or more for a plumber to come and fix it. So I'm happy that I was able to do it myself. And it's always a little fun to surprise the guy at the hardware store that's helping you find the plumber's putty that you're doing the repair yourself. So that made my day also. So I have a feeling tomorrow I will spend a lot more time in my planner than I did today. And I also feel like as soon as I cross one of these bigger projects off my list, 2 more pop on. And it's not necessarily because something breaks, it's just because I'm paying more attention to all the things that need to be done. But if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. I will be back on here with more because these projects are never ending. But I will continue to throw in planner content as well because that is where my heart is. I don't foresee me becoming an amateur Mrs. Fix-It anytime soon. So I hope everybody has a great week. I hope you are able to body double with me and get something of your own done. Every little bit definitely counts. Have a great one. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.